Senate will come to order. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa of Nueces, Hinojosa of Hidalgo, Huffman, Hughes, Johnson, King, Colcourse, Menendez, Middleton, Miles, Nichols, Parker, Paxton, Perry, Schwartner, Sparks, West, Zaffarini.
Members, of quorum is present. Would those in the gallery and on the floor please rise for the invocation to be delivered by Pastor Dustin Slayton, First Baptist Church in Round Rock, Texas.
Will you join me in prayer? Father God, I'm grateful to be able to offer a petition for the men and women in this room this morning. As Paul writes in Romans, they are your servants for the good of our citizens. They serve you as they serve our constituents. I pray that they will make judgments and decisions that will honor every human life for which they are responsible. And as they serve our state, I pray that you would allow them to feel the warmth of your pleasure as they serve well. As they deliberate on various matters, many of which they have differing views, may they be guided by the Spirit of God. May they approach each issue with humility, with the understanding that even in disagreement, they can learn from and appreciate the views of others. And I pray that you would give them Spirit-endued wisdom to discern right from wrong, good from bad, and righteous from evil. If they lack clarity, may they humbly seek your wisdom. As the letter of James instructs us, if we lack wisdom, we need only ask you, who give freely and liberally. I also want to pray for the families of these men and women, their spouses, and their children. The schedule of a public servant calls for early mornings and late nights, and their families share the burden of their service. I ask you to shower their families with your grace as they navigate this session. Allow the time they share together be especially sweet and meaningful. Finally, Lord, I pray these men and women will live their lives each day with integrity and will experience the joy of your approval in their service. May they hear the coveted words, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." I pray this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. You may be seated. The Dean of the Senate moves to dispense with the reading of yesterday's journal. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Motion is adopted. Members, the following message from the governor. Secretary will read the message.
To the Senate of the 89th Legislature, regular session, I ask the advice, consent, and confirmation of the Senate with respect to the following appointments. To be the Chief Executive and Public Counsel of the Office of Public Utility Counsel, Benjamin C. Ben Barkley, Austin. To be members of the Sulphur River Basin Authority Board of Directors, Aaron J. Rowland, Bogota. Jason E. Spencer, Avenger. Respectfully submitted, Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas, to nominations.
The chair recognizes Senator Eckhart to introduce the Doctor of the Day.
Thank you so much, and thank you, members of the Senate, for helping me welcome Dr. Erica Swegler, who is returning to the legislature to contribute her time and talents to the people of Texas today and every day in her practice. Dr. Swegler has the rare distinction of being one of just a handful of physicians who has served as a physician of the day every session since the 1987 session, and perhaps one of the few fluent in German. Since 1987, she has practiced family medicine, looking after infants, children, teens, and adults. Her practice includes well children and women exams, preventative health care, along with prevention and monitoring of complications related to diseases and women's health. Dr. Swegler earned her bachelor's in biochemistry from the University of Dallas before attending the University of Texas at Houston McGovern Medical School. Allow me to flip the page. Where she completed her residency at St. Paul University Hospital at the UT Southwestern Medical School. Also from UT Southwestern in Dallas, Dr. Swegler became certified in medical management and addiction medicine, so important to us now. Previously, Dr. Swegler has lent her services as a board member of the American Academy of Family Physicians and as president of the Texas Academy of Family Physicians. Dr. Swegler, thank you again for coming back to our chamber and your continued commitment to the health of Texas families. Deeply appreciated. Thank you, members, and join me in welcoming her.
Chair lays out the following resolution. Secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 232 by Perry, recognizing March 12, 2025 as Texas Tech University System Day at the state capitol.
Chair recognizes Senator Perry on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. It's an honor to welcome the distinguished representatives of Texas Tech University System to the state capitol today. We're here to celebrate the incredible impact this system has on Texas. Texas Tech University System is a $3 billion enterprise with over 64,000 students and more than 21,000 dedicated faculty and staff, shaping the future of education, research, and healthcare across our great state. And with the alumni network of over 400,000, its influence stretches far and wide. Each of the 5 institutions in the systems play a vital role. Texas Tech University, the flagship, is growing fast to over 40,000 students and nearly 2 decades of record-breaking enrollment. This year, they'll graduate their first class of veterinarian students, helping rural communities and needed trained large animal veterinarians. And with its Tier 1 research status, Texas Tech is making waves in the innovation. Texas Tech University Health Science Center is a leader in training health professionals. They educated over 42,000 medical experts, and they are tackling some of the biggest health challenges in Texas, especially with rural emphasis. Angelo State University is making a name for itself in cybersecurity and national defense studies, while ensuring students graduate with little or no debt. Texas Tech Health Science Center El Paso is expanding healthcare access in West Texas. They're home to the first medical school on the southern border and will soon break a groundbreaking world-class cancer center, a huge step forward for the region. Midwestern State is the newest member to the system. It's a major economic driver in North Texas and a key partner for the military families there at Shepherd Air Force Base. It's clear the system is making a real difference. Whether it's through education, research, or healthcare, the Texas Tech University system is shaping the future of Texas and Texans in a big way. So today we proudly recognize March 12, 2025 as Texas Tech University System Day at the state capitol. To all that are part of this incredible system, thank you for the work you do, and we're proud to celebrate you today. We recognize the Lubbock folks on the floor today. We have Regent Cody Campbell. We have Regent Shelley Sweat. We have Regent Clay Cash. We have Jad Zetoni. There you go, I got it. And Chancellor Ted Mitchell. I'm proud to be part of the alumni system at Texas Tech University. They have set my life on a path I never could imagine and dream of, and I'm one of millions that will benefit from everything I learned through y'all's system. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do to the state of Texas.
Senator Sparks, you're recognized on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although Texas Tech is not technically in my district, obviously you guys cover all of West Texas. My wife is a proud alumni of Texas Tech, and so I thank you guys for educating her and sending her to Midland. As an employer of the oil and gas industry, I thank you for the folks that you are educating and sending to our industry and broadly across West Texas. You guys are training up great workers to continue to enhance West Texas, both Permian Basin and the Panhandle. Very critical. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Senator Hagenbuch, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I'm going to join Senator Perry commending the Texas Tech system for the great job it's doing as a university, for its over 60,000 students, and for the great state of Texas. I especially want to recognize Midwestern State University, which I'm proud to have in my district. In 2021, it became part of the Texas Tech system, which is a great thing for MSU and Texas Tech. With us today from MSU is President Haney. Would you stand up? I guess you're already standing. Fantastic. All right. Yeah, wait for us. I've had a chance to speak with her at length. She's doing an impressive job in providing great leadership for the future of MSU. With her is members of her staff, and then especially want to recognize the members of the student government. Oh, there, raise your hands. All right. I was just up there, she told me they're doing a great job with student government and, quote, rocking it academically, which I believe is a great academic school. So welcome to your capital. Glad you're standing up there. We want to recognize you. MSU is recognized for high quality graduate programs, undergraduate programs, especially in nursing, business, and sciences. The university has made significant strides in research, particularly in nanotechnology, other sciences, and health. It also partners very well with local industry to foster innovation. MSU is competitive athletic programs in NCAA Division II in sports like football, basketball, and soccer. In recent years, MSU has expanded its campus facilities and programs, including new state-of-the-art academic buildings and dormitories. I had a chance to tour some of those when I was there. They're outstanding. MSU has a strong connection with Wichita Falls community. It offers a variety of services and learning opportunities and internships and partnerships with local organizations to give students a real-world experience. As a beacon of opportunity for North Texas, MSU continues to shape leaders for tomorrow while strengthening the region. Members, please join me in celebrating the achievements of MSU, and let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hagenbuch. Senator Campbell, you're recognized on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to rise in agreement with this resolution. Thanks, Senator Perry. I am Texas Tech University Health Science Center is my alma mater for medical school, And I like to say yes. We have a great medical school there. They deliver great health care, do great research, and I couldn't be more proud to be from Texas Tech University Health Science Center than anywhere else. Thank you so much.
Senator Hall on the resolution.
Thank you, President. Mr. President, I'm not a graduate of Texas Tech, but I did have the honor of visiting this a few weeks ago and was truly impressed with the state-of-the-art facility that you have out there leading the country in research on EMP, electromagnetic pulse, recognizing it a real threat to our society, real threat to our grid system. And I know that the work you're doing out there will contribute to us being able to protect the people of Texas from all threats, natural and man-made. Thank you very much for what you're doing out there. Appreciate it, and all the rest of the work you do.
Senator Perry to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to recognize President Hawkins. San Angelo State University, underneath the Tech system, does an awesome job bringing kids into the education environment that would not normally have an opportunity to, and making them our future pilots in the aviation industry. As President Haney from Midwestern was mentioned from Senator Hagenvu, your connection to your military and providing education on their schedule, meeting them where they are, as Admiral President Lori Rice Spearman, Texas Tech Health Science Center, your commitment to rural health care. You grew up in rural Texas, and it shows every day you go to work. And President Lang with Texas Tech Health Science Center. That is for those that don't know it, if not before the Texas Health Science Center at El Paso, the health care in that region, serving a million-plus population, would not exist. Thank you for what you do up there. Appreciate it. Mr. President, I move adoption.
Members, Senator Perry moves adoption of the resolution. Is there objection? Hearing and seeing none, the resolution is adopted. Chair lays out the following resolution. Secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 237 by Hinojosa of Nueces, recognizing March 12, 2025 as South Texas Independent School District Day at the state capitol.
Chair recognizes Senator Hinojosa of Nueces on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, South Texas ISD is not just a school district, it's a model of educational excellence and a testament to what is achievable when we commit to a results-driven approach to education. Year after year, this district has demonstrated that when we challenge students, equip educators, and cultivate an environment of academic rigor, we can create genuine success stories. Across the nation, there is a growing demand for accountability in education, an expectation that our schools must not only teach but also prepare students for success in the real world. South Texas ISD has set a high standard, ranking in the top 4% of high schools in both the state and the nation. And I was talking to them last night. I believe that they're like top 2 in the state. This achievement proves that a results-based education model isn't just a concept, it's a proven pathway to opportunities. The district's dedication to academic excellence, specialized learning, and college readiness has propelled countless students to some of the best universities in the state. The influence of South Texas ISD reaches well beyond the accomplishments of its students. This district serves as a model for public education in Texas, demonstrating how to blend challenging academics with practical applications, motivate students through career-oriented learning, and graduate individuals who are prepared for college and poised to become leaders in their professions. I would like to take a moment to recognize the members of South Texas ISD administration that are here with us today in the gallery. And where are you guys? Are y'all here? There you are. Over here we've got Secretary of the Board Larry Cantu, Board Member Eduardo Rodriguez, Board Member Sasha Crane, Board Member Oscar Salinas, Superintendent Dr. Tony Lara, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations Marla Knob. As we recognize and celebrate South Texas ISD today, let's take a moment to reflect on the impact that strong, innovative education systems can have on the future of our state and continue our push to restructure education in a way that encourages success. To South Texas ISD, thank you for your hard work. I look forward to seeing the continued success of our students, and welcome to your state capitol.
Senator Hinojosa of Hidalgo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Hinojosa, for bringing forth this resolution to recognize the South Texas Independent School District. I'm very fortunate to have 2 campuses in my Senate district. The middle school, South Texas ISD Preparatory Academy in Edinburgh, and high school, South Texas ISD World Scholars in Edinburgh. And for me, education is the best equalizer we have in our society. And South Texas ISD gives the best educational opportunity for our students, not only in South Texas, but through all of the state of Texas. And I will add that they take care of people who are physically challenged, people who are special education students, and yet their innovation and their progress they make in teaching and educating our students is beyond above average. It's one of the best schools in Texas, and welcome all of you to the Texas Senate.
Thank you, Senator Hinojosa. Senator Hinojosa of Hinojosa of Nueces to close.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Hinojosa of Hidalgo, for your kind words and support of this resolution. And with that, I move passage or adoption.
Members, you've heard the motion. Is there objection to adopting the resolution? Hearing and seeing none, the resolution is adopted. Chair lays out the following resolution. Secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 242 by Hughes et al., recognizing March 16th through the 22nd, 2025 as National Surveyors Week at the state capitol.
Senator Hughes, you're recognized on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, it's a real pleasure for me to get to recognize our land surveyors. We, of course, all of us work with these folks in different capacities, but even when we're not working with them, we are benefiting from their work. Everywhere we look, everywhere we drive, everywhere we stand and lay down to sleep, and transactions which take place to grow our economy and provide jobs. And so as I'm talking about them, I'm going to ask our friends in the Southwest Gallery, our friends with the surveyors, please stand while we brag on you. Y'all stand up, and we're going to say a few things about surveyors. We know what they do. They're dedicated professionals, and they make sure that success and the efficiency of infrastructure, property development, they protect property rights and give us legal clarity so that we can all act accordingly and know where we stand. We rely upon them for accurate maps, property boundaries, buildings, and so many vital needs. And you probably know this, but there's a long line of prominent surveyors. Did you know that President George Washington and President Thomas Jefferson were land surveyors who obviously helped shape this nation into what it is? And I want to point out a few of the folks who are with us from the Texas Society of Professional Engineers. President Steve Freeman. Steve, waves, we can see you. Welcome. Our President-elect Miguel Escobar is with us. Thank you for being here. Our Government Affairs Chair, Nicholas Vann. Educator of the Year, Seneca Holland with Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Thank you for being here. And all of our land surveyors with us and around the state, we welcome. Members, please join me in recognizing March 16th through 22 as National Surveyors Week as we move adoption of this resolution.
Members, you've heard the motion from Senator Hughes. Is there objection to adopting the motion or adopting the resolution? Hearing and seeing none, the resolution is adopted.
Mr. President, thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members.
Chair lays out the following resolutions. Secretary will read the resolutions.
SR 239 by Blanco, SR 240 by Nichols, SR 241 by Campbell, SR 243 by Creighton, and SR 244 by Colcourse.
Members, this is a voice vote. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolutions are adopted. Members, the following bills and resolutions on first reading in reference to committee. Secretary will read the bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 16 by Hughes et al. Relating to requiring a person to submit proof of citizenship to register to vote to state affairs. Senate Bill 22 by Huffman relating to the Texas Moving Image Industry Incentive Program and the establishment and funding of the Texas Moving Image Industry Incentive Fund to finance.
Members, the following report from the Nominations Committee. Secretary will read the report.
Senate Committee on Nominations report for the meeting held on March 10th, 2025.
Chair recognizes Senator Campbell on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Nominations Action Report was listed, which had 66 nominees on your desk that were laying there on Monday. March the 10th, the meeting of the Senate Committee on Nominations voted them out. The list was placed on your desk Tuesday. To meet the 24-hour layout rule, the nominees are now eligible to be confirmed by the Senate. So, Mr. President, I move to confirm the 66 nominees that are listed on March 10th, 2025 Committee Action Report that we voted on Monday. With that, I ask all members vote.
Members, are there any requests to sever? Hearing and seeing none, Senator Campbell moves that the nominees reported favorably from the Nominations Committee be confirmed. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell.
There being 31 ayes and no nays, the nominees are confirmed. Thank you, Senator Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members.
Members, that concludes the morning call. Senator Schwartner, you are recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional and regular order of business on Senate Bill 616.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I move to suspend all Senate's regular order of business and constitutional rules to take up and consider at this time Senate Bill 616. Members, this bill authorizes TCEQ to approve ASR projects that transect the Edwards Aquifer in the area of Williamson County, located east of I-35, to inject water deeper into deeper formations underneath the Edwards Aquifer. ASR is a water supply tool to support areas of the state with high growth and critical water shortages, including areas of Senate District 5. These two proposed ASR projects in Williamson County are by the Brazos River Authority in the city of Georgetown. This bill was recommended for local and passed unanimously out of the Senate last session. Thank you, members. I'll be happy to answer any questions and otherwise move suspension of the regular order of business and constitutional rules to take up and consider Senate Bill 616.
Senator Gutierrez. Okay. Members, Senator Schwartner moves suspension of the constitutional regular order of business on Senate Bill 616. Is there objection? Hearing and seeing none, rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 616. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 616 relating to aquifer storage and recovery projects that transact a portion of the Edwards Aquifer.
Senator Schwartner, you're recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage to engrossment of Senate Bill 616.
Members, Senator Schwartner moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing and seeing none, bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Schwartner, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved, Mr. President.
Members, Senator Schwartner moves suspension of the 3-day rule. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Bardwell, Blanco.
Being 31 ayes and no nays, the rule is suspended. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage SB 616. Secretary will read the caption.
SB 616 relating to aquifer storage and recovery projects that transect a portion of the Edwards Aquifer.
Senator Schwartner, you're recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move final passage, Senate Bill 616.
Members, Senator Schwartner moves final passage, Senate Bill 616. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Bardwell, Blanco.
Being 31 ayes and no nays, the bill is finally passed. Congratulations, Senator Schwartner.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members.
Senator Sparks, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional and regular order of business on Senate Bill 494.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I move at this time to suspend the regular order of business and the constitutional order of business in order to take up and consider Senate Bill 494. Members, you know that thieves engaged in organized oil field theft often operate across multiple jurisdictions, complicating efforts to apprehend and charge them due to a lack of coordination between authorities. Cartels and highly organized cartel activity has skyrocketed in the last few years. This legislation requires the Railroad Commission of Texas to establish a statewide task force to analyze organized oil field theft and recommend solutions to address this ongoing issue. The task force will include representatives from the oil and gas industry, energy trade associations, and local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies. With this, Mr. President, I move suspension.
Members, Senator Sparks moves suspension of the Constitution and the regular order of business on SB 494. Is there objection? Hearing and seeing none, rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 494. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 494 relating to the establishment of a theft of petroleum products task force.
Senator Sparks, you're recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage to engrossment.
Members, Senator Sparks moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing and seeing none, bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Sparks, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Thank you, Mr. President. So moved.
Members, Senator Sparks moves suspension of the 3-day rule. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Bardwell, Blanco.
There being 31 ayes and no nays, the rule is suspended. Chair lays it on third reading and final passage Senate Bill 494. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 494 relating to the establishment of a theft of petroleum products task force.
Senator Sparks, recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move final passage of Senate Bill 494.
Members, Senator Sparks moves final passage Senate Bill 494. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Bardwell,
There being
Blanco.
31 ayes and no nays, the bill is finally passed. Congratulations, Senator Sparks.
Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Senator Johnson, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional and regular order of business on committee substitute Senate Bill 929.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate Bill 929 just fixes an oversight from House Bill 2237 that we passed last session. It was a major and excellent overhaul of mechanics and material means liens. This simply says that if the deadline to provide notice or take other action with respect to a lien falls on a holiday or a weekend, we move it to Monday. It makes everything's work better. Members, I move to suspend the suspend the regular order of business.
Members, Senator Johnson moves suspension of the constitution and regular order of business on committee substitute Senate Bill 929. Is there objection? Hearing and seeing none, rules suspended. Chair lays out on second reading committee substitute Senate Bill 929. Secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 929 relating to certain deadlines and other timing factors affecting mechanics, contractors, or materialmen's liens.
Senator Johnson, recognized for a motion.
I move passage to engrossment.
Members, Senator Johnson moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing and seeing none, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Johnson, you recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved.
Members, Senator Johnson moves suspension of the 3-day rule. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell.
Being 31 ayes and no nays, the rule is suspended. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage committee substitute Senate Bill 929. Secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 929 relating to certain deadlines and other timing factors affecting mechanics, contractors, and materialmen's liens.
Senator Johnson, you're recognized for a motion.
I move final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 929.
Members, Senator Johnson moves final passage. Committee substitute Senate Bill 929. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell.
There being 31 ayes and no nays, the bill is finally passed. Congratulations, Senator Johnson.
Members.
Senator Paxton, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business, take up and consider, the constitutional and regular order of business, take up and consider Senate Bill 890.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I move to suspend the regular order of business and the constitutional order of business to take up and consider Senate Bill 890. Senate Bill 890 provides parity by adding statutory probate judges to the list of active and retired judges who are already eligible to receive a license to carry a handgun under the special exception process available to other Texas judges. I move to suspend.
Members, Senator Paxton moves suspension of the constitutional and regular order of business on Senate Bill 890. Is there objection? Hearing and seeing none, rules suspended. Chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 890. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 890 relating to the issuance of a license to carry a handgun to certain active and retired judicial officers.
Senator Paxton, you're recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage to engrossment.
Members, Senator Paxton moves passage to engrossment for Senate Bill 890. Is there objection? Hearing and seeing none, bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Paxton, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved, Mr. President.
Members, Senator Paxton moves suspension of the 3-day rule. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Nichols.
There being 28 ayes and 3 nays, the rule is suspended. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage Senate Bill 890. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 890 relating to the issuance of a license to carry a handgun to certain active and retired judicial officers.
Senator Paxton, you're recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move final passage.
Members, Senator Paxton moves final passage Senate Bill 890. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook.
There being 28 ayes and 3 nays, the bill is finally passed. Congratulations, Senator Paxton.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members.
Senator Flores, you're recognized. Suspend the regular order of business on Senate Bill 20.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. At this time, I move to suspend the regular order of business and the constitutional order of business to take up and consider Senate Bill 20. During the interim, Governor Patrick, you asked the Criminal Justice Committee to study
Excuse me, Senator. Members, if you want to talk, just do it in quiet tones so we can hear the senator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. During the interim, Governor Patrick, you asked the Criminal Justice Committee to study how predators use deep fake technology and artificial intelligence, also known as AI, to harm and exploit children. Our committee held an interim hearing and took testimony on offensive conduct specifically addressed by Senate Bill 20. During this hearing, it became clear that technology has allowed the creation of this material to be easier, quicker, and more prevalent than ever before. Technology, whether through AI or other programs, has enabled child predators to produce material that is obviously so offensive that I believe it has no redeeming value whatsoever. In fact, these materials are often used to groom and abuse children. While current law does not prohibit AI-generated pornographic material of real children, it does prohibit it. The law does not speak to images of artificially created children. This material can be just as offensive and just as harmful and just as dangerous. As you all are aware, it is not uncommon for the law to have to catch up with technology. We've consulted with the prosecutors who handle these types of cases routinely and come up with the bill presented before you today. So SB 20 creates a new criminal offense related to obscene visual material. This bill reflects an effort to address the challenges posed by modern technology in the creation and distribution of harmful visual content, particularly concerning the protection of minors. What this bill accomplishes: Senate Bill 20 creates a new criminal offense for the possession or promotion of obscene visual material that appears to depict the child. The bill specifically targets visual depictions of minors in obscene activities, regardless of whether the depiction is of an actual child, a cartoon, an animation, or an image created or using artificial intelligence or other computer software. What are some of the key provisions of this bill? It creates an offense. The bill adds section 43.235 to the Penal Code, which makes it an offense to knowingly possess, access with intent to view, or promote obscene visual material that appears to depict a child under 18 years of age engaging in certain activities. The penalties: the offense is classified as a state jail felony. However, it can be elevated to a third-degree felony if the person has a prior conviction under this section or related sections, and it can further escalate to a second-degree felony if there are 2 or more prior convictions. If the conduct also constitutes an offense under another law, the actor may be prosecuted under either this section or the other law, but not both. But I do have a floor amendment to allow prosecutors to be able to handle this under this law or any other law, and that was at the request of our prosecutors to make this bill easier to enforce. So thank you, and I appreciate your consideration of this important piece of legislation, and I stand ready for any questions you may have.
Senator Menendez, for what purpose?
Questions of the author of the bill.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do yield.
He yields.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Flores, first and foremost, let me say thank you for filing this bill. I enjoyed the conversation that we had where you enlightened me to the deplorable, disgusting. There are not enough negative adjectives out there to describe people that would use a computer software, animation, or something to depict the child in some form of pornography or obscene visual material. So I want to thank you first and foremost for helping protect our children, for keeping them from. One of the things that as I reviewed your bill, and I, as you know, I'm very supportive. I was just wondering, at the very back, you have here on section 4, you want it to take effect September 1st. Is this a type of bill that as it moves through the process, that possibly we could have immediate effect with 2/3 approval? I mean, this is a bill that I think is very important. I would like to see what we could do to get any material or any people that are possessing or creating this material to understand that they're going to be dealt with severely through the criminal justice system, and that we're not going to tolerate this. So what are your thoughts about immediate?
Well, thank you. As we drafted the bill, again, working with the prosecutors, and that's where most of the text of this came from, I asked them, what do you need to be able for Texas to provide a strong message that this is, in any form or fashion, the exploitation of our children? And these prosecutors were So they're the ones that put that language in there. If you have an amendment, I would be glad to do that.
Immediate effect. An immediate effect amendment is I think, something that we would, the good news is it's early in the process, still going to the other side. Y'all can still add it on the other side. So I'm not going to slow down your role here. I'm envisioning that you'll have probably unanimous support in this legislation. So I want to thank you. I look forward to your amendment and to helping support this. Thank you for bringing this forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your support.
Senator Flores moves suspension of the constitutional and regular orders of business on Senate Bill 20. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 20. Will the secretary read the caption?
Senate Bill 20, relating the creation of the criminal offense of possession or promotion of obscene visual material appearing to depict a child.
The following amendment, will the secretary read the amendment?
Floor Amendment number 1 by Flores.
Senator Flores is recognized on floor amendment number 1.
Mr. President, members, this amendment was at the request of the prosecutors that said that they needed this for more flexibility to be able to address these predators under this law or any other law, and so that was added into section or other law, but not into the bill. I move adoption.
Is there objection to adoption of the amendment? Hearing none, amendment's adopted. The following amendment, will the secretary read the amendment?
Floor Amendment number 2 by Parker.
Senator Parker is recognized on floor amendment 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I have an amendment that would advance our efforts in combating child sexual predators. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence has created powerful tools that, while being beneficial in many areas, are being exploited to produce AI-generated and virtual child sexual abuse material, or CSAM. Unlike traditional CSAM, which is already illegal, AI-generated images, videos, and deepfakes depicting child exploitation exist in a legal gray area, allowing offenders to create and share disturbing content with impunity. This loophole must be closed immediately. There is no issue, members, more important to all of us than protecting our children. SB 20 is an effective tool for law enforcement to crack down on this evil and hold these perpetrators accountable. This amendment gives further accountability by allowing sentences under this section to be stacked for multiple applicable offenses to give judges the discretion to run the sentences consecutively. Texas code already allows for consecutive sentencing in traditional CSAM, and this amendment brings SB 20 in line with this precedent. I believe it's acceptable to the author, and I move adoption.
Is there objection to the adoption? Chair recognizes the author, Senator Flores, on the amendment.
I'd like to thank Senator Parker for his amendment, and it is acceptable to the author.
Is there objection to the adoption of floor amendment number 2? Hearing none, the amendment's adopted. Senator Flores, you are recognized for a motion for passage to engrossment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage to engrossment.
Senator Flores moves passage to engrossment of Senate Bill 20. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Flores, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
I move final passage of Senate Bill 20.
Senator Flores moves suspension of the 3-day rule. Will the secretary call the roll?
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook.
There being 31 ayes and no nays, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on third reading and final passage Senate Bill 20. Will the secretary read the caption?
Senate Bill 20, relating the creation of the criminal offense of possession or promotion of obscene visual material appearing to depict a child.
Senator Flores is recognized to move final passage.
So moved.
Senator Flores moves final passage of Senate Bill 20. Will the secretary call the roll?
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckert.
There being 31 ayes and no nays, the bill is finally passed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, it's a great honor to serve with you, all of you, to give us a clear message to those that would prey upon our children, that the Texas Senate says no. Thank you very much. God bless you.
The chair recognizes Senator Hinojosa of Hidalgo for a motion to suspend the constitutional and regular order of business on Senate Bill 442.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. I think all of us know that artificial intelligence has very many benefits across the spectrum of our economy, from our healthcare to education and our families. But there are always bad actors in any technology that we use nowadays. The emergence technology, especially artificial intelligence and machine learning, has led to the rise of deep fake media. These are images or videos that are altered or fabricated to falsely depict someone engaging in actions or behaviors they did not consent to, often with harmful consequences. These manipulations, when used to create sexually explicit content without consent, can have devastating impact on the individuals depicted, including emotional drama, reputational damage, and threats to personal safety. Existing laws fail to fully address the unique threat posed by deep fake media, as they do not specifically criminalize its production or distribution in the context of intimate depictions. This bill, Senate Bill 442, seeks to strengthen the legal framework by establishing clear legal definitions and enhancing penalties, and ensuring consent is a priority in the production and distribution of sexually explicit deep fake content. Senate Bill 442 ensures that deep fake media can only be legally produced and distributed if the person depicted has given explicit consent in writing, and their consent must be informed, voluntary, and clearly stated in plain language. It also includes that producing or distributing deep fake media without consent is classified as a Class A misdemeanor, with harsher penalties of felony of a third degree for repeat offenders. The bill eliminates the offenses based on disclaimers or labels that claim the media is not real, emphasizing that these disclaimers do not mitigate the harm caused by the unlawful content. With that, Mr. President, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Senator Hinojosa moves suspension of the constitutional and regular orders of business. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 442. Will the secretary read the caption?
Senate Bill 442, relating the prosecution and punishment of the offense of unlawful production or distribution of certain sexually explicit media.
Senator Hinojosa is recognized for a motion for passage to engrossment.
I so move.
Senator Hinojosa moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Hinojosa is recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional three-day rule.
I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Hinojosa moves suspension of the constitutional three-day rule. Will the secretary call the roll?
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Neckart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu.
There being 31 ayes and no nays, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on third reading and final passage Senate Bill 442. Will the secretary read the caption?
Senate Bill 442, relating the prosecution and punishment of the offense of unlawful production or distribution of certain sexually explicit media.
Senator Hinojosa is recognized to move final passage.
Mr. President, members, I move final passage of Senate Bill 442.
Senator Hinojosa moves final passage of Senate Bill 442. Will the secretary call the roll?
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Neckart.
There being 31 ayes and no nays, the bill is finally passed. Congratulations, Senator Hinojosa.
Thank you, Mr. President, members.
Senator Huffman is recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional and regular order of business on Senate Bill 1621.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. At this time, I move to suspend the regular order and the constitutional order of business, take up and consider Senate Bill 1621. Members, last session I passed House Bill 2700, clarifying that the creation, distribution, and possession of computer-generated content is criminal by expanding the definition of visual material to include depictions of a recognizable likeness of a minor created using AI technology. After monitoring this legislation and the development of technology moving very quickly, it is clear that further modifications are needed to the child pornography statute to maintain its effectiveness and usability as a tool for law enforcement and prosecutors. Senate Bill 1621 rewrites our current child pornography statute to account for the advances in AI-generated content. The bill creates new definitions for a depiction of a child and a depiction of a computer-generated child. These definitions cover images of a real child that has been modified by AI, and images that are entirely AI-generated and are virtually indistinguishable as a child. Furthermore, under this bill, a person commits an offense if they intentionally or knowingly possess or view visual material that contains a visual depiction of a child engaging in sexual conduct and know or believe that the depiction is of an actual child younger than 18 years of age. The offense is a felony of the third degree if the depictions are of a real child, and a state jail felony if the depictions are of a computer-generated child. Additional enhancements are provided for prior conviction if a depicted child is under 10 years of age and for increased quantities of the illicit material. Members, this bill sends a clear message that the production and distribution of sexually explicit material involving children will not be tolerated regardless of if it involves actual images of children or is computer generated. And I move to suspend the rules.
Senator Huffman moves suspension of the constitutional and regular order of business on Senate Bill 1621. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 1621. Will the secretary read the caption?
Senate Bill 1621, relating to prosecution and punishment of certain criminal offenses prohibiting sexually explicit visual material involving depictions of children, computer-generated children, or other persons.
The following amendment. Will the secretary read the amendment?
Floor Amendment number 1 by Huffman.
Senator Huffman is recognized on floor amendment number 1.
Thank you, members. During the committee process, concerns arose over whether certain possession of visual material depicting conduct under this bill extended to both physical and digital copies. So in abundance of caution, this amendment clarifies the issue by explicitly linking possession to the bill's definition of visual material, which encompasses all media formats. I move adoption of floor amendment number 1.
Is there objection to the adoption of floor amendment number 1? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted. Senator Huffman is recognized for a motion.
I move passage to engrossment of Senate Bill 1621 as amended.
Senator Huffman moves passage to engrossment of Senate Bill 1621. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Huffman is now recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So move, Mr. President.
Senator Huffman moves suspension of the 3-day rule. Will the secretary call the roll?
Alvarado, Bedcourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell.
There being 31 ayes and no nays, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on third reading and final passage Senate Bill 1621. Will the secretary read the caption?
Senate Bill 1621, relating to prosecution and punishment of certain criminal offenses prohibiting sexually explicit visual material involving depictions of children, computer-generated children, or other persons.
Senator Huffman is recognized for a motion.
Move final passage of Senate Bill 1621.
Senator Huffman moves final passage of Senate Bill 1621. Will the secretary call the roll?
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton.
There being 31 ayes and no nays, the bill is finally passed. Congratulations, Senator Huffman.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Nichols is recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business and the constitutional order of business on Senate Bill 992.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I move to suspend the Senate's regular order of business, take up and consider Senate Bill 992.
Senator Nichols moves suspension of the regular order of business and the constitutional order of business. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 992. Will the secretary read the caption?
Senate Bill 992, relating the procedure by which the Attorney General approves or denies approval of a state agency contract for outside legal services.
Senator Nichols is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 992 establishes a clear time frame for the Office of the Attorney General to approve or deny a state's agency request for outside legal counsel. Currently, state agencies must obtain the Office of Attorney General's approval for a contract for outside legal services. However, in state statute, there's no time frame in which the office must respond. To address this, 992 requires AOG to approve or deny a request within 25 days after receiving the contract from the requesting agency. Additionally, if they deny it, the bill mandates that the Attorney General provide a written explanation for the denial, ensuring transparency. By setting this specific timeline, this bill will improve efficiency in state agency operations and ensure timely handling of legal services contracts. I move passage to engrossment.
Any objection? Bill passes to engrossment. Chair lays out on, oh, you're recognized for the constitutional 3-day rule suspension.
I move to suspend the 3-day rule.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Bardwell, Blanco.
30 ayes, 1 nay. The rule is suspended. Chair now lays out on third reading and final passage Senate Bill 992. Secretary, read the caption.
Bill 992, relating the procedure by which the Attorney General approves or denies approval of a state agency contract for outside legal services.
You're recognized on final passage.
I move final passage, Senate Bill 992.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Bardwell.
30 ayes, 1 nay. The bill is finally passed. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Senator Colcourse, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business and the constitutional order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 25.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I move to suspend the Senate's regular order of business and take up and consider at this time committee substitute to Senate Bill 25. Members, committee substitute to Senate Bill 25 is not just a bill. It's a call to action. We are taking action for our children, our grandchildren, and every Texan so that we can live longer, have more productive lives. This bill is about your life and the life of every Texan, the life of everyone that we love. It is a time when we can say sometimes in our nation we are divided. But I will tell you how grateful I am to the Lieutenant Governor for making this a priority bill, for believing in this issue enough to make it Senate Bill 25. Speaker Burrows, likewise, has made it House Bill 25. I'm grateful to Chairwoman Lacey Hall for filing that bill. That bill is tracking our language on the Senate floor. This bill brings together co-authors like Senator Cook and Senator Campbell, Senator Blanco and Senator Hall, Senator Hughes and Senator Eckhart. As our Health and Human Services Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. has mentioned, when his uncle was president in the 1960s, about 6% of Americans had chronic diseases. We spent very little funding on chronic disease. But today, 60% of Americans have chronic diseases, and we're spending $4.3 million a year. That is 5 times our military budget. These are some of the statistics that should make us sit up in our chairs, stand up, and say what is wrong. Obesity affects 20% of our children. 73% of U.S. adults are overweight or obese. Type 1 diabetes has already doubled in the past 40 years in the adult population. Early onset of cancers, that means cancers of people below the age of 50, increased a staggering 79% from 1990 to 2019. Americans are eating more ultra-processed foods than ever before, and an estimated 57% of our daily calories are consumed with ultra-processed foods. And 10 of the 17 cancers of all those rates that are increased were related to excess body weight. So we spend more on healthcare than any other nation in the world, but our life expectancy keeps trending downward. So what are we doing with this bill today? Members, the short answer is this. We are going to step up and make real changes so Texas can be a national leader in keeping our population healthy. We will form a new Texas Nutrition Advisory Committee composed of independent voices who will examine the proven links between ultra-processed foods and artificial dyes and artificial additives and chronic health and nutrition. They will make dietary recommendations to help us better understand what we are eating. We will not be the food police, as Senator Hancock has said during committee layout, but we will arm Texas with information so they can make their decisions on their foods. We will require food labeling that discloses what's in our foods. We protect free markets and free enterprise, but we also protect the Texas consumer with this bill. It's simple. If Texans are eating food that includes known health risks that have been proven in other nations, why are we doing it here? I will say that during the interim, Mr. President, we had a great committee hearing. And one of the people that came to testify put up the ingredients of Fruit Loops in America. And then he put up Fruit Loops in Canada. And it varied widely. Although both of these countries, that cereal probably potentially could have come from the same manufacturing plant. And yet we had all of these additives, these dyes, these sugars that were not found in Canada. And I think our committee took a good look at that and said, why is this? We're also going to make our doctors focus more on the causes for patient chronic illnesses rather than just the treatments with drugs and surgery. That's why we're going to see our state's medical schools and other professional health schools teach nutrition. I recently was with a group of doctors and I asked them, Senator Schwertner, how many of you took a nutrition class during med school? No one raised their hand. Then two of them came up to me later and said, I actually did have a health class, but that's because I was a nutritionist before I went to med school. It was a very interesting conversation. So, members, we're also going to usher in a return of physical education in our schools. We're also going to teach health in our schools. I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor and his staff for the interjection that they talked about. We need to be teaching about metabolic health in our public schools. We need to be doing that in our colleges and our universities so that people can make better decisions with their lives. It's an empowerment of their own governance, personal responsibility. And so with all of that, members, I will say that the last part of this bill, which is a tough part of the bill, is the labeling. And the labeling part of this bill is basically we looked at Western civilization countries like Canada, like the EU, and said, why are certain things banned in their countries, but they're not here? We're not going to ban anything. That is not what we do here. But we're going to allow our constituents to have information. And it simply says if you have any of these ingredients that are banned in all these other countries, you just have to say that you do. The market will correct itself. Maybe the consumer doesn't care, but maybe they do. It's a step forward. I will say that I had someone ask me, where'd you get this bill from? And I'm going to tell you where I got this bill from. We got it from an interim hearing. and my staff and I researching and reading and listening. And I will just say, members, that this legislation is about uniting our state under a common belief that we can do better. Instead of bigger government, this is a bill that relies on personal choices of Texans who are armed with the right tools and the information. Busy mothers that go into that grocery store and they're grabbing things off the shelf like this because they're late for a soccer game. Their son has a test tomorrow and they've got to do their very best. Wouldn't it be nice if there's clear and simple information so that she or the father can make better decisions? So in ending this, I just want to say that it is something that the legislature can give back to the people of the state of Texas. And that it's time that we give this to our loved ones and to every average citizen out there, because we are going to expand the average lifespan of every Texan. Senate Bill 25 is a coming together to make Texas healthier. We will be improving the lives and the health of our people. This is a big state with big ideas, big ideas, and this is one of them. I believe that Texas will lead the nation and that this will be a trend that we see across the other nations. Members, this is one of 2 or 3 bills that you'll see come to this floor. Senator Hughes has a bill today. Senator Middleton, you had a bill in our committee yesterday. And I will just tell you that one of the most shocking things that I realized yesterday, sitting there listening to testimony, was when the American Heart Association basically said, no, we want to give sugary drinks to our children. We're okay with them eating chips and cookies. And I said, no, are you sure you want to testify against this bill? And they affirmed that they did. This is where our nation is right now. We need to open up this conversation and have it in a way. We need to step beyond what the FDA has approved. Texas can do that. We're the 8th largest economy in the world. What we do matters. And if we do this, and it can go over to the House, and I believe in the House leadership and Chairwoman Hull and Speaker Burrows, I believe that the rest of the nation will look to Texas and say, they're on to something. And just maybe, we can curb the trend of us spending more on healthcare than any other nation in the world, but yet our life expectancy continues to trend downward. The last numbers I looked at was 60th in the world. We're better than that. So, Mr. President, it's an honor to carry this bill and to work with so many people and the industry. You can imagine there's a few people that have shown up in our office to give us input, and we're going to have some amendments. Senator Schwertner called me last night with a great idea. We're going to look at his amendment and we're going to accept it. If y'all accept it, I'm going to accept it. I think it's a great idea in furthering the expansion of education to our healthcare professionals. So with that, Mr. President, I move to suspend the constitutional rule.
In the regular order of business. Senator Menendez,
for
what purpose?
Business. I skipped ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Questions of the author of the bill?
You yield.
I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Kolkhorst. Senator Kolkhorst, thank you for bringing this bill forward. The more I hear about it, the more I like it. You and I have been here a long time, and I can remember when we took the sugary soft drinks out of the schools. Remember that?
I do.
It was a little controversial, and but the children are doing better, things are better. Then we did other steps. One of the things that I think was very popular, that was very helpful, was to increase PE in our students' lives. Your bill, what does it do about PE?
Yeah.
I heard you touch on it, and I want to know a little more.
Yeah, it says to our public schools, we're going to have 5 days of PE.
Awesome.
All the way through 8th grade. We're going to have 5 days, and we can't really substitute that, you know? And I love the fine arts, and I love music, but we're going to have 5 days of PE where kids are moving. And for any moms of boys, you know that it's really important for them to get that energy out. And I was kind of like that too, and I actually studied better. But it's giving them a habit of knowing that they need to move 5 days a week. I mean, you need to be out there moving. And studies have shown this over and over and over again, that if you get children, you teach them the benefits of that, it will be a lifelong, hopefully a lifelong habit of theirs. The other thing that the bill does is says you can't use PE as a punitive measure. Okay, and so, we've talked about, I loved sports. And if I got in trouble, my teacher would say, Lois, you're not going to get to go to PE today. I would straighten up pretty quickly. But we're not going to use it as a punitive measure, because then, the whole goal of it is get the kids out and move.
Right.
And then they might not be so disruptive in class.
Well, not only that, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if I told you children with childhood obesity have about, on average, $15,000 more in medical costs in their lifetime. I mean, children with childhood obesity have a harder time, poor educational outcomes, and lower GPAs, reading scores, math scores, and more absences. So if we can help children get healthier, it's going to help every aspect of their life. Would you not agree?
I agree. This bill back is just a small sampling of the research that we have done that affirms your statement.
You mentioned something about educating, adding some nutrition education for medical professionals. I mentioned to you a story of a 36-year-old man who walked into his doctor's office a little bit overweight, high cholesterol, and the doctor, first thing he wanted to do is write a script for cholesterol.
I want everyone to listen to this story because it's really amazing. Keep going. That 36-year-old.
36-year-old young man, the heaviest he's ever been, walks in, cholesterol is high. The first thing he says, I need to write you a prescription. So I said, well, did you not notice the chart? This is the heaviest. He says, oh yeah. Well, can we have a conversation about diet and exercise? He says, nobody does that. I said, I'm not going to fill out your script. I'm not going to fill it. So keep it. And a year later, I inverted the cholesterol numbers, dropped about 25 pounds. So diet and exercise works. It may not work for everybody, but I can tell you that in San Antonio, you mentioned diabetes in your bill layout. We have some of the highest numbers of diabetes, hypertension. And because of that, we also have some of the highest numbers of per capita chronic renal failure. So it starts with one thing. It starts with hypertension and diabetes, and it ends up with people being on dialysis. Their lives are stolen from them, and their families' lives, because they have to get up and take them 3 days a week to get dialyzed. It is the most ridiculous thing that is preventable. That's the worst part about it. So thank you for bringing this bill forward. I do have a couple of questions that have been brought to me out of a little bit of a concern for how business would go forward. And so I know you have a floor amendment where stores that make their own food, like HEB, and I appreciate your HEB Red, they can ensure that they can still include this long word, carrageenan, that is derived from seaweed.
Yeah,
Is that
Carrageenan?
Carrageenan, okay. Is this, in your amendment, they can still use it?
It is. Yeah, the floor amendment that I'm going to offer specifically is going to allow HEB to use that. And I'm really glad that they came to us about that because it actually it allows them to do a preservative better than the other current preservatives, and it's not banned in other countries. It's banned in one, but only for, I think it is infant's milk. So we're very comfortable with that, and we appreciate HEB.
Appreciate that. And then the next question is, the foods that have in their stores, they have bakeries, stores that have bakeries, delis, sushi stands and stuff like that. They can still make those because sometimes you walk in and they'll have something for that morning made. They may not have the specific labeling. Are they still able to sell these foods that they make for immediate consumption?
That is correct. We'll have an amendment to make sure that it's crystal clear on that. So I do say that, again, this is kind of on packaging food. And I also want to say, in working with HEB, the amendment, which I'll explain very specifically, is their concerns about manufactured foods only in Texas, but we're going to have the amendment that makes it crystal clear it's all foods coming to Texas, not just them, because that would have singled them out versus maybe a Walmart. So we don't want to do that.
No, we want everyone. And it's interesting, as you mentioned, the guardian, whether it be mom, dad, grandmother, granddad, with that child, and they're in a hurry and they want to get something healthy. Here's the other thing that you might not have thought about or envisioned in the layout. I can remember, this is a little, I'm dating myself here, but I can remember when seatbelt laws came in and when the Don't Mess with Texas, the not throwing things out your window came about. It was the children who got the parents to comply. By teaching children about education, eating right, exercise, we will hopefully help them change the healthy outcomes for the rest of the family. So thank you for bringing this bill forward. I'm glad that I was able to sign on. I look forward to seeing it come to fruition. Thank you to the Lieutenant Governor for making it a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Menendez, and thank you for sharing your very personal story.
And I know you will follow up and get all of the junk food out of the Senate lounge.
I walk past it quickly and I don't look at it.
Senator Swertner, for what purpose?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask questions of the author.
Do you yield?
I do.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President and Madam Chair. I really want to applaud you for bringing this bill forward. Health and wellness and prevention, and get what I would call really getting back to the basics. So much of healthcare, as you are aware, being chair of Health and Human Services, is about curing disease and fixing things and treating someone that's already diseased. And this bill really speaks to what we should be emphasizing, which is the prevention and the things that in a person's lifestyle keep them from getting sick. So thank you first and foremost for that. Would you happen to know what percentage of diseases and healthcare costs are attributable to lifestyle choices? Would you have any guess on that? We didn't discuss this, so it's just a guess.
Have the answer to that? Because I've got plenty of information here and I could dig it out of this for sure.
Well, I'll cut to the chase, but supposedly about 2/3 of all healthcare costs are associated to lifestyle choices, which is obviously nutrition and exercise and wearing seatbelts, as it was discussed by Senator Menendez, and getting outside and not smoking and just being healthy versus, again, curing disease and curing illness. Also wanted to ask you about your fiscal note. I understand it's a negative fiscal note.
I think in the out years, it certainly will be. There's some startup costs for the Department of State Health Services initially, but I believe that this will trend downward across our nation, because if we can pass this, I think other states will follow suit. You've had bills like that. I've had bills where we capped insulin, and then actually the federal government ended up doing it. I do believe that the fiscal note, it will save us millions of dollars, billions of dollars, if we can get people healthy again. I want to say, as a doctor, I was recently this fall down in the Valley. I was in Harlingen and Senator Chuy Hinojosa's district. And I had lunch with a group of doctors, and one of the doctors looked at me and he said, fatty liver disease is, and there's a more technical name, but that's what he used, he says, is so prevalent and it is so terrible on the patient and the families. And he said, we can prevent this. We can do better. And it just really stuck with me. When I sit down and I've talked to doctors, health professionals, but some of this is, Senator Swertner, when you get into the studying of these ultra-processed foods and what the FDA has done for decades. This isn't one administration over another administration. This is decades. It's Republican FDAs, it's Democrat FDAs, and what they have allowed in our food sources that you can see in other Western civilization countries they have not. For example, let's just talk about Mexico. Mexico now has a very stringent labeling requirement. And actually, HEB, who has stores in Mexico, they adhere to it. And they have these warning labels on their foods. Started about 2019, I believe they passed a law. And it's to give information to the consumer to make better decisions. I've never studied seed oils so much in my life. One of the things that I heard is that if you look at a label and you can't pronounce it, it's probably not great for you, or is it on your shelf at home? And I'm not pinpointing our producers. You know, they're always trying to produce food in a mass amount of food, mass amount of capacity, but it's what we've allowed over the years. And if you look historically in what has happened, even with some of our cigarette companies, and when they pivoted from selling cigarettes, they bought food companies, and they brought their scientists with them. And we have ingredients in our foods that don't trigger us being full. It actually triggers you wanting to eat more. And again, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus or any one company, but Senator Schwertner, last night, when I was studying again for the layout today, we have 10 companies that have a revenue of $1.1 billion a day. A day. So really, about 10 companies control most of our food sources if you're not buying fresh produce. It's time for us to turn a page. It's time for us to have the doctor in Harlingen not look at me and say, it's so saddening to me what I'm seeing in my patients.
I agree with you completely, Senator. And again, I call this the back to the basics bill about nutrition and wellness and emphasis on lifestyle changes and choices people make. And I appreciate, we discussed last night the potential to add for continuing education. I know your bill has one for physicians, but actually having nurses and physician assistants also have a requirement for CE centered upon nutrition. I think it's very important that we as healthcare providers do get that extra training and emphasis in an area that matters so much, that is so tied to health versus curing disease. So thank you for, I believe you're going to accept that potential amendment, and I want to thank you for your work on this bill.
Well, I thank you, because as we talked about the CME that's required in the bill for y'all, for doctors, you know, you have 24 hours every 48 months. And some, you know, we have, you know, of course, medical ethics. We have required, I believe, human trafficking. There might be one other requirement. Opioid, yeah. Right.
Tommy Williams put that one in.
This would be something, and I think that it would catch, this is going to be talked about for a long time, and metabolic health and where we can go. And your amendment's going to allow other practitioners that come face to face and interact with the patients. You know, many times you give your nurse orders. They're the ones really talking to the patients, and this will allow them to interact and give them some messages that they can go home. Little, like what Senator Menendez talked about, little things just to say, wow, maybe I should drop 25 pounds. I'm not taking a statin. I don't want to. And he changed his life at 36.
Well, thank you, Senator, again. Look forward to the amendment and the passage of this bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Dr. Schwertner.
Senator Alvarado, what purpose?
Thank you, Mr. President. To ask the author a few questions.
Short questions, right?
Yes, please.
Do you yield?
Yes.
Senator Alvarado, short questions, right?
Thank you.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Take all the time you want.
Yes. Thank you very much for bringing this bill up. It's something I've been very passionate about during our time in the House. I don't know if you remember this, but I had a bill in 2011 that eliminated sugary drinks out of schools, out of the vending machines. I don't know if you recall that. I recall that you voted for it.
I did.
It passed overwhelmingly in the House. It got caught up over here. I did not hear or see in your bill, but does your bill address the sugary drinks in schools?
No, actually what it does is on the labeling portion. Now, we have a bill coming up with Senator Middleton as it gets out of the committee. What the bill does is it actually focuses on banned substances, additives in other countries. We list those out, the EU, Canada, Great Britain, a few others. And it doesn't ban them. It just says you have to say this on your label. This product contains substance additives that are banned in these countries. And what that will do for the consumer is they'll pick it up and they'll go, wonder what that is. And then hopefully they'll educate themselves. And as we had a great discussion yesterday in Health and Human Services, Senate Health and Human Services, the market will adjust. Now, I don't specifically say you can have no sugary drinks. If there are additives in that that are banned in other countries, like the dyes, that label will have to be on those drinks. So more so, it's a labeling bill instead of a banning bill.
Okay, and I'm glad to see that people have evolved on this issue because many of us, myself and others that have been in this body have tried to promote more physical fitness. I've filed a bill every session in the House, and it would get caught up because, as you referenced earlier, you had different segments in education saying, well, then so-and-so is going to want more arts or more, this subject matter. But this gets to the root cause of so many things. Were you aware that it was even, the large number of obese young people was even affecting our military?
It's so funny you bring that up. It's in my statistics here. Tell everyone how it's affecting our military.
Well, people from the age of 18 to the early 20s, there was a very large percentage. It's been a while since I've talked up this bill, but we had something that addressed it. And there was a very significant population of 18 to, I think, 24 that did not qualify for the military because they were too obese.
That is correct.
So it's not only a health issue, it is a national security issue. So I thank you for bringing it up. As I said, I'm just so glad that people have evolved on this issue. I remember when First Lady Michelle Obama was promoting a lot of this, and people, were upset about it. But now, it's a popular thing, so I'm glad that you have brought this bill forward, and I look forward to helping you make sure we get it across on the other side as well.
Senator Alvarado, I've enjoyed so much having you on the Article 2 work group as we work through these issues, and you have been a leader and a pioneer in this. And there were times when I was like, I don't know, Senator, at the time, Representative, let's see how this goes. But the time has come because the statistics are irrefutable in how much chronic illness is rampant in our country and what it is doing to their lives, what it is doing to all of the budgets. We spend more money on chronic illnesses in healthcare in our nation than any other nation in the world. And our life expectancy ranks about, in the next few years, 60th. There are 59 other countries better than us.
And it's cheaper to prescribe nutrition and exercise than medication. So thank you again, and I don't forget that you were chairing the Health Committee back in the House, and you helped me get that bill out.
I did, and we had a lot of headwind, honestly. And in my shock of the American Heart Association yesterday being against one of these bills, I did a little research, and I understand how they're funded. And so this is going to be a long road for all of us, but we can get better and we can do better. And these companies will adjust, and they will produce better foods. And this will force, as you notice, I have an advisory committee in there. Mm-hmm. It is going to force the FDA and the USDA to sit up in their chairs a little bit more and say, what are they doing in Texas? And we also take out all the conflicts of interest in that advisory committee, because we have had a lot of, and again, this is no administration. It's Democrats, Republican administration. It's just been for decades that we've ended up where we are today.
Well, again, I'm excited about this bill, and we always say things are bigger and better in Texas, but we want bigger to mean bigger in a different way. Thank you.
That's right. Bigger in a way that we're cutting healthcare costs and we're cutting our body fat.
Senator Middleton, for what purpose? I love all of you talking about food today and all the things. And I'm so proud of us wanting to finally go the healthy route. It's great for our kids and give them freedom of choice. Choice is a big word. There you go. Go ahead, Senator.
Will the author yield for questions?
I will.
Awesome. Well, thank you for bringing this bill. Hugely important. So often in this building, we're forced to deal with really the consequences of what's going on in healthcare, where we can see, in your committee all the time, we're spending more and more and more for worse and worse and worse healthcare outcomes. So what are we going to do about prevention, right? How are we going to help prevent these bad outcomes from happening before they even get there? And obviously, when I grew up, it was eggs were bad for you and steak was bad for you, right? That's what we're told. So we were taught all these things that were wrong. For example, that was the low-fat era, and everybody was being pushed into corn syrup, flavored products. There's a lot of sugar, because it's low-fat, low in protein. Turns out it wasn't very good for you. So I think that's one of the most critical components of your bill is that nutrition education, right? Because nutritional education today prevents that taxpayer-funded healthcare of tomorrow, right? And that one of the goals of your bill?
100%, like Dr. Schwertner said, 100%. We are going to end up having a savings in the out years if we can implement this bill.
And it charges our State Board of Education.
Senator Hughes' bill.
And all the other, bills that we're trying to make Texas healthy again. And I think one of the important points, too, is you've been a leader on this, informed consent, right?
Absolutely.
Whether that's vaccines, and now guess what? Food products as well. So this bill actually, one of the big things that it does, it is informed consent for consumers what is in the food that they're buying, right? And where they get to decide and they know what's in it.
That's exactly right. Is making them in a way that is not so onerous on them. Like if you want to go to the grocery store and find some chips that don't have seed oils in them, you really have to work. I took a shortcut with my daughter telling me which chips to buy, right? I do like chips, and this is not saying you can't have chips. It's just make better decisions. You mentioned, eggs. Eggs, very important. They're a little high right now, but hopefully that'll be okay after the avian flu. But one of the things that I've learned through all this studying is that our grandparents and our great-grandparents probably got it right. Butter is not really bad for you. You don't want to eat a whole 3 sticks of it, but to use it to cook in. Those natural fats that we see that the good Lord gave us, that's what we need to go back to.
And that's that preventative healthcare, essentially through education, because a lot of us don't know. I was taught a lot of things that were wrong, in the 1980s, and we've got to start over on this, and this bill does exactly that. We're the next generation of Texans is being informed of what is nutritious and what is not, what is good for you, what is not, what is likely to lead to bad health outcomes, frankly.
Yeah, so the food pyramid probably is not perfected right now. And that's, again, why I created the advisory committee, so that Texas could lead the way. We have some really great minds here in Texas. We've passed DPRIT. We're going to have a lot of research that's going to be done on preventative, what causes these chronic illnesses and the disaster of Alzheimer's and other things, the obesity. We're told that Alzheimer's is now, type 3 diabetes. And all of this is going to come together. And it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. The labeling portion of this bill, we give a long runway to 2027. As a business person myself, Jimmy and I have owned a company that had to do labeling, actually. And so this is going to give the manufacturers time to conform to it, and also time. Product development takes a long time. I mean, it takes years, and we're going to give a long enough runway that if they decide to continue to have these additives and different things that are banned and all these ingredients banned in other countries, they just have to label. It's up to them. And then the consumer, market-driven, will make those decisions. I always say the customer gets it right, especially if they have the right information.
It's that fully informed consent that your legislation is providing for. That's one of the greatest parts of the bill. It's everything's great in it, but I love that part especially because it's really hard to find out, and that next generation needs to know what's good and what's bad and what to look for. So thank you for bringing this bill. Awesome bill. Appreciate your leadership on the Make Texas Healthy Again movement.
Make Texas healthy again, and thank you for your leadership as well.
Thank you. Senator Eckhart, what purpose?
To ask a question of the author.
Do you yield?
I do.
Thank you so much. This is a wonderful bill, and I am so excited to work in this bipartisan fashion on these issues. I do note that the fiscal note is roughly $2.5 million annually. I wanted to explore with you how we are going to look at the offsetting of that cost through what I anticipate will be a tremendous savings in healthcare to consumers.
Yeah. I think you and I could sit here and go through a litany of things. It starts with obesity in our children and the type 2 diabetes that we're seeing in the early onset of diabetes, what the long-term results of type 2 diabetes and what it does to our children and the cost to the healthcare, not only to the cost of the healthcare, Senator, but their lack of productivity as a person. And so, and you're so well versed in so many different areas as a lawyer and a longtime leader in Travis County and the history of your family. But certainly you and I at our age today can look around and say, wow, children used to not be this obese to fight that. And there's just something really wrong. Children who didn't have sometimes economic advantages from their parents used to be skinny. It's the inverted now. And that has to be their food sources and lifestyle choices. And again, I listened to a great podcast the other day, and you just don't know. When you're holding down 2 jobs and you've got kids and you're trying to make ends meet and you're so busy, and I see this in the grocery store. I shop at the grocery store. Now, sometimes Jimmy goes because he knows that it's going to be about 2 hours because I see everybody and they want to ask a lot of questions, especially during session. But I see families going through there and they're grabbing things. Senator Eckhart, why are the Fruit Loops in Canada different than the Fruit Loops in America? That is unacceptable because we let it happen, because our federal regulators allowed this to happen over a period of about 40 years, 35 years. And we just have to turn back the clock. As Senator Schwertner said, let's go back to the basics. I know there's certain ingredients you have to do there for a shelf life, but when you and I were growing up, did your bread mold? Yes, it did. Mine did too, right? Why? You can have it for a couple of months now and it doesn't mold. That's something that is not natural. That is not natural. And so I really think that the common sense that we've discussed today, Senator Hinojosa, it can make such a life in those children's lives, in all of our lives. Have you ever thought, why can't I lose weight? Well, it's because there's certain ingredients that aren't going to allow you to lose weight. We can do better.
I'm sure that this $2.5 million annual investment in our population health will certainly show much higher dividends than the mere $2.5 million. So I look forward to voting with you on this bill and getting back to teaching a man to fish for a natural fish instead of giving him a processed one. So thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Senator Eckhart. I loved it when you walked up to me one day and you plopped down that green card. And I was like, what bill is she signing on here? And I was like, yes. That's what I mean is, and Governor, Mr. President, thank you for making this a priority. Sometimes I go to the Lieutenant Governor, I go, this is really important. And I have to, sometimes he looks at me like, are you crazy? Are you sure about this? And I go, this one, I am profoundly, emphatically, rock solid telling you this is going to make a difference in millions of Texans' lives.
Senator Johnson, getting hungry?
Very hungry, sir.
Okay. For what purpose?
But I do want to know what's in my lunch.
Yes.
Question of the author.
Do you yield?
I do. To my
Senator
friend
Colcourse, I got my green card here. I'll be seeing you later on this. And I want to thank you for bringing the bill. And I wondered what you think about this as really a first step in the overall acknowledgement of responsibility by the legislature in public health. You're providing information, you're providing labeling, you're providing education and physical education, all fantastic things. I'm reminded as I look at this bill of a line in a book I read. It was talking about a high school football player, and it said he was raised on convenience store crud and the vegetables in his mother's martini. Is cold. And when I think about that, I do think about the fact that we have millions of people in this state living in what we call food deserts. Mm-hmm. And no matter how much information they have, when all they've got is convenience store crud and vegetables in their mother's martini, it's going to be hard for them. And so I think we need a broader discussion, I wondered if you agree, around other non-medical drivers of health and how we as a legislature can continue down this path that you have boldly started to making our citizens more healthy.
I agree with you. And we had a good discussion in Senate Health and Human Services Committee yesterday about food deserts. And honestly, you know, sometimes the convenience store is the only place that you can shop. If you're in a food desert, you can't. If you don't have your own car, you might have to get on a bus and go hours. In Dallas, I know this for a fact. You know, I've talked to some folks up there where people live, and so one of the things that I think is important, Senator Johnson, and there's a package of bills, and like you say, this is just a beginning. It's a first step forward. That the market could adjust and will adjust as we begin to say this is not acceptable. My ultimate hope is that the federal government acts and says to all 50 states, this is a direction we're going in. We've had different bills to address food deserts. It's always hard. We need to continue to work on that, potentially incentivize convenience stores to. It's not just fresh vegetables.
Yeah, we got to get creative on this. And I know in the Medicaid program, they're looking at other non-medical drivers like access to transportation and food. And I hope that we can all keep those things in mind as we take this step that you've initiated here, because it will lower our costs, it will increase our productivity, and it will make us overall a happier place.
For sure.
So, thanks for bringing the bill, Senator Colcourse.
I appreciate it, Senator Johnson. You know, you're in this space a lot, and you're in a very metropolitan area, and you represent a wide range of people. And, you know, yesterday we had a discussion about Hearne, Texas, and a food desert that it is. And so we just have to keep working on this and taking steps forward. I think Senate Bill 25 is a pretty good step forward.
Yeah, it's a great step forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Colcourse. Lots of good questions. Great bill. Members? Any objections to suspending the constitutional rule and the regular order of business? Hearing none. So ordered. Chair now lays out on second reading. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 25. Secretary, read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 25 relating to health and nutrition standards to promote healthy living.
Members, the following amendment.
Floor Amendment number 1 by Colkhorst.
You're recognized on your amendment, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is the amendment that I discussed with Senator Menendez. I'm offering this amendment to give explicit guidance for food manufacturers to follow regarding compliance with Senate Bill 25. We've worked with manufacturers on this language, specifically HEB and the Texas Association of Manufacturers. The floor amendment does 3 things. It provides an updated list of ingredients for manufacturers to reference for labeling purposes and to comply with the bill. It removes carrageenan because, one, it's not banned entirely in other nations in the jurisdictions that we require in the bill, and 2, manufacturers pointed out that this is an incompetent alternative, which means a lesser alternative, meaning that it might even be better than some of the naturally derived ingredients they could put in this. So we definitely agree with that. Again, to Senator Menendez's questions, working with HEB, it exempts ready-made foods such as the deli and bakery items made on site for immediate consumption. And finally, it makes it crystal clear a food manufacturer shall label each product the manufacturer offers for sale within the state. There was some confusion that said, oh, no, it's only the foods made in the state. No. This is any food that is sold in our state. This amendment will make it crystal clear.
Any objection to the adoption of the amendment? Hearing none. Amendment is adopted. Following amendment. Secretary, read the amendment.
Floor Amendment number 2 by Schwertner.
Chair, recognize Senator Schwertner on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I believe this is a friendly amendment. There are currently continuing education requirements for physicians in the bill. This amendment would also require CE for nurses under the Texas Nursing Board and physician assistants under the Texas Medical Board, where they're currently regulated. I believe it's a friendly amendment. Thank you, Senator.
Senator Colkhorst?
Yes, it's acceptable. It's a great, it's really a great amendment. It was an oversight on my part. Thank you, Senator Schwertner, for bringing this again. These are people that interact face-to-face with patients and giving them guidance. And so really love this amendment. It's acceptable.
Any objection? Hearing none. Amendment is adopted. Chair now recognized for motion.
Thank you.
Passage to engrossment.
Mr. President, since it's my first bill off the floor, I move passage to engrossment.
Engrossment, there you go.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 25. Hopefully I'll get that language down as the session goes on.
I'm working on it too. You're going to take the red dye out of your top. That's just what I want to know.
There you go.
Any objection? Hearing none. Bill passes on engrossment. Chair now lays... Oh, you recognize suspend the constitutional 3-day rule. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the constitutional rule that bills be read on 3 several days.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell.
31 ayes, no nays. Rule suspended. Chair lays out in third reading and final passage. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 25. Secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 25 relating to health and nutrition standards to promote healthy living.
You are recognized on final passage.
Thank you. I move final passage of Committee Substitute 25, and I thank each and every one of you for your comments today and for your input, and we look forward to working with our House colleagues. I would encourage you to encourage them on this important bill. Thank you, Mr. President, for making this a priority.
And I think the messenger in the little blue dress back there on the back row just brought you a note. Okay.
She brought me a note that says that Senator Brandon Creighton wants to be a co-author. Should I let him on? Should I let him do it? Okay, we're going to let Senator Creighton be a co-author as well.
What is her name?
What's your name? And a very appropriate name for today, Mr. President, Grace.
Grace. Well, thank you, Grace. You just did something really important. You got a senator's name on a bill that he should have signed on earlier.
Agree 100%. Yeah.
The last one at the food table. Yeah, that late train, he's hanging on the caboose.
The
Secretary
train
will
is
call the
moving.
roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell.
31 ayes and no nays. Thank you for that great bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members.
There's that.
Senator Hughes, on a theme of good health, you're recognized to suspend the regular order of business and the constitutional rule on committee substitute for Senate Bill 314.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I move to suspend the constitutional and regular orders of business to take up and consider at this time committee substitute Senate Bill 314. Along the theme that Senator Kolkhorst has so well laid out and the Senate has been entering into for some time now, this bill has to do with the school lunch program about healthy meals. President Harry Truman, when he signed the National School Lunch Act, said this: Congress has acted with great wisdom in providing the basis for strengthening the nation through better nutrition for our school children. We have the technical knowledge to provide plenty of good food for every man, woman, and child in this country. But despite our capacity to produce food, we've often failed to distribute it as well as we should. He continues, in the long view, no nation is any healthier than its children, unquote. That was in 1946. We're familiar with the school lunch program where so many children, millions of children, eat those meals. We recognize that for many of our children back home, that may be the only hot meal that they have. And so this is a very important program. We want to get it right. When we look at where the school lunch program is today, we have to acknowledge that in so many ways the government has committed a malpractice if the goal was to provide healthy, nutritious meals for those children. So Senate Bill 314 is for those kids who don't have the privilege of choosing what they're going to eat during the school day. They can either eat what's put before them or they can go hungry, either dangerous chemicals or be malnourished. And so under this bill, if an ingredient is linked to severe harm in human health, it's unnecessary, and alternative foods are available, state law will prohibit that from being served on our children's plates. Brominated vegetable oil, potassium bromate, and a number of concerns about artificial dyes. Again, chemicals that have been linked to real harm in human health. And the bill will affect more than 8,000 schools and 3 million Texas school children. 61% of those students in Texas do not bring their own snacks or meals to school. Some states have dealt with this, most have not. Texas will be one of the biggest, as we tend to be, and so far the first red state. But of course, this is not a red or a blue matter. This is about our children. And again, lest we become concerned about the marketplace, we're talking about school meals served to a captive audience, Texas school children, and the taxpayers are the ones paying for these meals. So this message says, if you're going to sell your products for consumption by our Texas students in the school lunch program, here's what we, the consumer, are looking for. That's what this does. We've already heard from a number of folks in the industry who are responding to this, recognizing there's a greater and greater concern. And so with that, I owe a special thanks to my wife for highlighting this issue to me several months ago. And of course, it's continued to gain prominence. It's an important one. And I move suspension of the regular and constitutional order of business.
I'm glad you're listening to Layla.
Amen.
Very, very good. And you know, bills like this and what she just passed at SB 25, the health savings long-term and more healthy people long life are really important.
Yes, sir.
Members, any objection to the suspension of the rule and regular order of business? Hearing none. Motion adopted. Secretary Reed on second reading. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 314. Read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 314 relating to prohibiting certain food additives from being included in free or reduced price meals provided by school districts.
Members, the following amendment.
Floor amendment number 1 by Miles.
Senator Miles, recognized when you're
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to start off by thanking Senator Colcourse and Senator Hughes for bringing these very important bills up. But in these amendments I'm about to present, I just want to make sure that in the transition, as we transition into these new programs, Senator Hughes, that we don't lose in transition the possibility of free breakfast for our kids, or 3 million kids, and free lunch. So as TEA has stated, that school districts will be able to receive a waiver if they are not able, through no fault of their own, to meet the requirements of this bill. This amendment states that the requirements in this bill do not apply to school districts that receive one of these waivers. Do not apply to school districts that receive one of these waivers. Also, it provides a school district one automatic waiver for 1 year if they are not able to comply, and limits one automatic waiver per 5-year contract period. Whether it's through supply chain constraints or supplier issues, no school should be put at risk for not being able to provide free and reduced school lunches. That's the amendment, Mr. President, and that's the amendment, Senator Hughes.
Senator Hughes on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. And I thank Senator Miles for this discussion. He and I discussed this during the committee hearing and also privately, and our staffs worked on this. And Senator Miles has offered 2 amendments, and when we get to Amendment 2, it's my intent to accept Amendment 2. I believe that solves the problem. I will respectfully vote no on Amendment 1 with my intent to accept Amendment 2. I'm a no on 1.
The Secretary will call the roll on the amendment.
Alvarado.
Members, people are going to have to vote on this amendment. We have a lot of empty desks in the back. You need to come out and vote on an amendment. Sometimes the votes are left, but they are not today. So if you are in the back at lunch, please come out and vote. Secretary will call the roll slowly.
Birdwell. Blanco. Blanco. Campbell. Campbell. Cook. Creighton. Eckhart. Flores. Gutierrez. Hagenbu. Hall. Hancock. Hinojosa of Nueces. Creighton. Hinojosa of Hidalgo.
I'm going to accept. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, okay. Okay.
I'm against the amendment.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, no, sir, because it'll be acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, respectfully, if you make sure she got your vote right.
I will now.
Well, just on this one, did she see your no on this one? Very good. Make sure she got it. Don't mind.
I got you. I got you. I got you, yes. Huffman. Hughes. Johnson. King. Colcourse. Menendez. Middleton. Miles. Nichols. Parker. Paxton. Perry. Schwertner. Sparks. West. Zaffarini.
Members, there being 10 yes votes, 17 no votes, the amendment fails. Members, that's a good exercise to begin session, that when amendments are on the floor, nothing is automatic. Can't leave those votes early. So members have to be ready for amendments. It was the old days, Senator Zaffarini, right? Like it was always done. The following amendment. Secretary, read the amendment.
For amendment number 2 by Miles.
Senator Miles, better luck on this one.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, Mr. President, we're in support of this bill, but we're just trying to ensure that in the transition, we don't lose a free lunch and free breakfast program for our 3 million kids. So this amendment simply says, it still states that a school district may receive a waiver, but no longer requires an automatic acceptance by TEA once per contract cycle begins. I believe this amendment is acceptable to the author. And thank you, members, and thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I thank Senator Miles, and for the benefit of the members, Senator Miles and I discussed this in committee and also around committee, and we agreed on this language. That Senator Miles provided this language to us. We like it. I'm going to keep my agreement and accept this amendment. This is our agreement. It's a good amendment, and in case anybody's concerned, under this amendment, if the commissioner fails to respond within 30 days, the extension is granted. This is strong. It protects our school children, and I agree with Senator Miles. We have to preserve that program for those kids who need those meals. Acceptable to the author.
Thank you, Senator. Any objections? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted. Thank you, Senator Miles. You're recognized on a motion to engrossment.
Mr. President, move passes to engrossment.
Any objection? Hearing none, bill passes to engrossment. You're now recognized to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
That's my motion.
Secretary, will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco.
30 ayes, 1 no vote. The rule is suspended. Chair now lays out on third reading and final passage. I'll come to you on third reading. The bill is, sorry. Chair now lays out on third reading and final passage. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 314. Secretary, read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 314 relating to prohibiting certain food additives from being included in free or reduced price meals provided by school districts.
Senator Gutierrez, what purpose?
Just to speak on the bill very briefly, Mr.
You're recognized.
President. Thank you, Mr. President. I also had a chance to talk to Senator Hughes on this particular piece of legislation, and I know he's urged me that we'll continue to work with people in the House, and I don't want to get into a position where we're having any personal attacks or anything like that, or even an attack on what's going on in Washington. But I want everybody to understand that we are reaching some treacherous water here. Just yesterday, USDA cut $1 billion. We've seen the different federal cuts that have come down, and I want us to be aware that it does affect Texas veterans and affects Texas students and so on and so forth. But on this one in particular, USDA cut out 2 programs. The Local Food for Schools program, that's a grant program that helps farmers and ranchers give food to our local schools. and they also cut the local food purchase assistant cooperative agreement. Small amount of money for Texas, about $22 million in that grant funding, a little bit more in the other. I just want us, as we move forward, as these federal cuts continue to happen, that we keep in mind that these cuts are hurting our farmers and have the potential to hurt our children. And I know that none of us in this room want to do that. And so as the next 60 days unfold and we see more, I'll just leave it at cost cutting. That's what we hear every day in the news. Let's be cognizant that our farmers and our ranchers and our children and our veterans get affected by those cuts. And we have the power to be a stopgap and hold harmless those children and those farmers and those ranchers from the dangerous cuts that are happening at the federal level. So thank you, Mr. President, for the time.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Hughes on final passage.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I thank each member for contribution to the bill and move final passage, Senate Bill 314.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell.
30 ayes, 1 nay. The bill is finally passed. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members.
Welcome the scouts up there. Welcome to the state capitol. Good to have you with us. Where are you all from? Flower Mound. All right. Senator Huffman, you're recognized to suspend the regular order of business and the Constitutional Ruling Committee substitute for Senate Bill 260.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, at this time, I move to suspend the constitutional rule and the regular order of business to take up and consider the committee substitute to Senate Bill 260. Members, the committee substitute to Senate Bill 260 builds upon our historic investments to enhance school safety and security during the last legislative session. In 2023, the legislature committed a total of $1.4 billion in new school safety funding, with $1.1 billion going towards additional hardening grants to meet new minimum safety standards outlined by the TEA, and $300 million towards raising the school safety allotment. Committee sub to Senate Bill 260 would significantly increase both the per student and the per campus school safety allotments, which cost roughly $500 million for the biennium. Specifically, the per student allotment would increase from $10 for each student in average daily attendance to $28, and the per campus allotment doubles from $15,000 to $30,000. The committee sub to Senate Bill 260 reaffirms our commitment to making schools safer for our students and educators by providing additional financial resources so that districts can pursue increased safety measures. And members, as a reminder, a similar bill passed the Senate during the fourth call special session in 2023 with unanimous support. I move suspension of the rules.
Any objection? Hearing none, the rule is suspended and the motion is adopted. Chair now lays out on second reading committee substitute for Senate Bill 260. Secretary, read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 260, relating to school safety allotment under the Foundation School Program.
You're recognized on passage to engrossment.
I move passage to engrossment of the committee sub Senate Bill 260.
Any objection? Hearing none. You are now recognized to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell.
31 ayes, no nays. The rule is suspended. Chair lays out third reading and final passage. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 260. Secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 260, relating to school safety allotment under the Foundation School Program.
Recognized on third reading and final passage.
Thank you, members. I'll remind everyone this is another $500 million towards our public schools. And with that, I move final passage of the committee substitute Senate Bill 260.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell.
31 ayes, no nays. The rule is finally passed. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator Birdwell, you're recognized on Senate Bill 1145, suspend the constitutional rule and the regular order of business.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I move to suspend the constitutional rule and the Senate's regular order of business. Take them and consider Senate Bill 1145. Members, Senate Bill 1145 transfers the permitting authority for the land application of produced water from the Railroad Commission to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Produced water is wastewater generated during oil and gas extraction and is most commonly disposed of by injection into disposal wells. In Texas, an average of 7 barrels of produced water is produced for every barrel of oil. However, technologies have been developing to effectively treat produced water for beneficial use. TCEQ currently regulates the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, which is a federally delegated program from the EPA to control discharges of pollutants to surface waters. This includes treated produced water in the oil and gas space. Although TCEQ has the regulatory authority for this application of produced water, the Railroad Commission currently has administrative authority for land application permits for produced water. This permit transfer will consolidate permitting for both the discharge of treated produced water to surface waters and land application with TCEQ, creating regulatory certainty within the industry and putting the authority under a single agency that has more experience in land application permits. I move suspension, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Rules suspended and the regular order of business. Chair now lays out on second reading Senate Bill 1145. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 1145, relating the authority of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to issue permits for the land application of water produced from certain mining and oil and gas extraction operations.
You're recognized on passage to engrossment.
So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. We'll pass to engrossment. You're recognized to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved, Mr. President.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell.
31 ayes, no nays. Rules suspended. Chair lays out in third reading and final passage Senate Bill 1145. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 1145, relating the authority of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to issue permits for the land application of water produced from certain mining and oil and gas extraction operations.
You're recognized on final passage. Third reading.
Final passage, Mr. President.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt.
31 ayes, no nays. The bill's finally passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members.
Senator Huffman, you're recognized to suspend the constitutional rule and the regular order of business on committee, substitute for Senate Bill 293.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, at this time, I move to suspend the constitutional rules and the regular order of business, take up and consider the committee substitute Senate Bill 293. Members, the State Commission on Judicial Conduct is a commission created to protect the public, promote public confidence in the integrity, independence, competence, and impartiality of the judiciary, and encourages judges to maintain high standards of conduct. In recent years, there has been a lack of consistency surrounding reviewal timelines for judicial complaints submitted to the commission. I'll say this led to frustration on the part of the judges and our constituents. Additionally, the commission is limited in the types of complaints that it is allowed to review and the actions that it can take for judicial misconduct. Judicial salaries has also been an issue that the judiciary has argued needs to be increased in order to attract more qualified candidates, which would hopefully lead to a more efficient judiciary. The committee substitute aims to strengthen judicial accountability and transparency by expanding the definition of judicial misconduct to include failure to meet statutory deadlines and persistent or willful violations of bail proceedings under Article 1715 of the Code of Criminal Procedures. It enhances the complaint process against judges, including penalties for false complaints, and providing for a more efficient and transparent process for complaints to be investigated and disposed. Increasing transparency through quarterly reporting of district judges' duties to ensure greater public knowledge of judicial workloads, and modifying eligibility requirements for retired judges serving in temporary assignments. To conform with Senate Joint Resolution 27, which I have filed, the committee substitute removes the ability of the commission to issue private sanctions. The committee substitute also increases the base salary of a district judge by 15%, which also results in higher salaries for elected prosecutors, appellate and high court justices, and judges with more experience on the bench. I do want to point out that it is rare for the legislature to provide this significant of an across-the-board pay raise for any group of state employee or officials. As you recall, in 2019, I authored a bill that, and this body voted for it, and it passed the legislature, that rewards continued service of judges and elected prosecutors by providing a salary increase for certain years of service. It also increased the amount of longevity pay. Furthermore, district judges may also receive a county supplement of up to $18,000. By increasing the base pay in this bill by 15%, it also increases the maximum county supplement to just over $22,000. And in fact, over 87% of district judges currently receive the maximum county supplement. Additionally, the committee substitute increases the salary supplement for local administrative district judges, presiding judges, and chiefs. Finally, the committee substitute adds provisions relating to the resumption of service by certain judicial officers under the JRS Plan 2. I share the growing concern of many in our state about the current condition of our judiciary. It's troubling to see instances where judges appear to stray from upholding the law as it's written, undermining the trust we place in our legal system. This is especially critical when it comes to bail decisions involving violent offenders where lives are at stake. However, complaints about the judicial system extend beyond criminal courts, encompassing civil and family courts as well, which some may not be actively working to clear their dockets. That is why I firmly believe that the judiciary should not receive any type of salary increase unless the necessary and appropriate reforms are also included. That's why this is all in one bill. And I will say, members, that tier system that we set up in 2019, where judges after 4 years get a raise, 8 years get a raise, and then they get a longevity bump after 12 years, this pay raise will be 15% on top of all of those tiers that are already in existence. So a judge who is serving now maybe their first term, if this bill passes, when they reach that four-year mark, will actually get about a 25% raise. So plus an increase in county supplement if the county chooses to go to the new max. So these are in significant pay raises. I've tried to balance this very carefully with transparency and accountability to come up with a plan that makes sense, that's fair to everyone concerned, the judges and our constituents and the taxpayers. And I think this bill is a good balance. So with that, I move to suspend the rules.
Senator Bettencourt, what purpose?
Ask questions of the author.
You yield.
Of course.
Great bill. And I think the tie between the performance issues of the accountability for judges as well as pay is something long overdue.
I would agree with you, yes, sir.
Okay, and I think the way you've gone about it is important because the public wants to see a standard, and they want some accountability, and quite frankly, some enforcement if there's some consequences for not doing the job that the public has voted for and is paying them for. True?
Correct, and that's what we tried to achieve in this legislation.
All right. So, and I know you were very demonstrative in committee that this was all going to stay together as a package.
This is a package deal. Yes, it is. I've been very clear about that.
I would love to green card your package deal.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for your effort on that. It's a really important concept. Senator Huffman, you should be commended for it.
Thank you, Senator Bettencourt. Thank you.
Is there any objection on suspension? Hearing none, rule is suspended. And the motion to suspend the regular order of business. Secretary will read the caption on committee substitute for Senate Bill 293.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 293, relating the discipline of judges by the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, notice of certain reprimands, judicial compensation, and related retirement benefits.
Members, the following amendment. Secretary, read the caption.
Floor amendment number 1 by Huffman.
Senator Huffman, on your amendment.
Yes, members, the committee substitute erroneously removed the ability of the Court of Appeals chiefs to receive supplemental compensation from the counties, which would treat them differently than their peers, and that was never the intent, and so this floor amendment fixes that provision, so I move adoption.
Any objection? Hearing none. Amendment is adopted. You're now recognized on passage to engrossment.
I move passage to engrossment, the committee substitute Senate Bill 293.
Any objection? Hearing none. Bill passed to engrossment. You're recognized to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Bardwell.
30 ayes, 1 nay. The rule is suspended. Chair lays out in third reading and final passage. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 293.
I move final passage of committee substitute to Senate Bill 293.
Secretary, read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 293, relating the discipline of judges by the State Commission on Judicial Conduct.
Yeah, so it was my lapse. Sorry. Senator Eckhart, for what purpose?
To make comment on final passage, sir.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Huffman, I deeply appreciate this bill's recognition that our judiciary is in sore need of a pay increase. Investment in our judiciary is important not only to the judges who are there today, but also to lawyers all across the state who are considering leaving private practice to become judges, to lay aside advocacy for a client, to instead be the scales of justice in Texas to assure that our cases are fairly determined, no matter where the individuals come from, no matter what socioeconomic background they have. It's important that we have qualified jurists who are willing to leave private practice to do this work. And so I appreciate that portion of this bill. I struggled on my position on this bill because I do know how deeply that pay increase is needed. But ultimately, I have decided to vote no on the bill. I do believe in court transparency, and as a county judge, I advocated for and know well how difficult it is to get transparency in the courts, and we've discussed this before. Creating a dashboard for the judiciary to monitor at the trial court level how many cases are going through, what the disposition rate is. It's important to have that kind of transparency. But ultimately, I come down as a no on this bill because I believe that the transparency propositions of this bill have tipped over into the punitive. And they've tipped over into an oversight by the legislative branch on the judicial branch that I think would become inappropriate and punitive. I stand ready to continue working on important transparency in our court systems, but I will have to vote no on this bill.
Senator Huffman, thank you, Senator. You're recognized on final passage.
Move final passage of the committee substitute Senate Bill 293.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell.
30 ayes, 1 nay. The bill is finally passed. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members.
Senator Birdwell, you're recognized to suspend the regular order of business of the constitutional rule on Senate Bill 869.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I move to suspend the constitutional and regular order business rules to take up and consider Senate Bill 869. Members, Senate Bill 869 is a bill to provide greater clarity and direction to the Ethics Commission based upon my bill from the 86th legislative session, SB 548, that passed the Senate 31-0 in the 86th legislature. SB 869 makes perfectly clear that during the investigation of an official complaint, the TEC must either dismiss or propose a resolution within a 120-day period without tolling unless litigation is brought by the respondent or the commission regarding the complaint. The bill also specifies that the Texas Ethics Commission only has tolling capabilities in the event that a complaint proceeds to litigation and that the commission does not possess additional rulemaking authority to alter or enhance its tolling capabilities. Members, earlier today I passed out a packet containing the Attorney General's opinion that I placed on your desk. That opinion came out a couple of days after our hearing in State Affairs last week, so I wanted to make sure that you had that additional information. Even though the Attorney General's opinion currently negates the Commission's tolling, it concurs with me. It negates the Commission's tolling rule and will provide relief to those currently caught up in an elongated investigations. SB 896 is necessary to ensure that future Attorney Generals or TEC Commissioners do not reverse or circumvent this ruling without a change in statute from the legislature. I move suspension, Mr. President.
Any objection to the suspension? Hearing none. Rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading. Committee substitute, Senate Bill 869. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 869 relating to the deadline for the Texas Ethics Commission to resolve certain complaints.
You're recognized on engrossment.
So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Bill passed to engrossment. You're recognized to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved, Mr. President.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell.
31 ayes, no nays. The rule is suspended. Chair lays out third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 869. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 869 relating to the deadline for the Texas Ethics Commission to resolve certain complaints.
You're recognized on final.
Move final passage, Mr. President.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell.
31 ayes and no nays. Thank you, Senator. 2 for you
Mr.
today.
President and members,
The bill is passed. Senator Flores, you're recognized to suspend the regular order of business, constitutional rule, Senate Bill 384.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the constitutional order and order of business and the regular order of business to take up and consider Senate Bill 384. Mr. President, members, Operation Game Thief was established in 1981 by the 67th Legislature and has since contributed to the arrest and conviction of hundreds of poachers in Texas. The program is privately funded, relying on support from the public through donations, merchandise sales, sponsorship, and gifts. Senate Bill 384 simply allows Texans who are purchasing a hunting and fishing license of any type to make a donation of $1, $5, $10, or $20 to the Operation Game Thief Fund. Including the option to donate to the fund on license applications will make a significant positive impact on the amount of donations this fund receives to be able to address the issue of poaching in Texas. So I move suspension of the Senate's regular order of business and the constitutional order of business to take up and consider this bill, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is adopted. Rule is adopted. Suspended. Chair now lays out a second reading. Senate Bill 384. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 384, relating to making a donation to the Operation Game Thief Fund when applying for a hunting or fishing license.
You are members following amendment. Sorry. Secretary, read the amendment.
For Amendment Number 1 by Birdwell and Flores.
You're recognized on your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senator Flores, thank you for your work on your bill. This amendment establishes members a 3% cap on reasonable expenses associated with developing and managing the system for collecting donations outlined in the bill. By placing that limitation on donations allocated to administrative and development costs, it ensures that the majority of contributions are directed toward their intended purpose. That also means that the cap can be adjusted by future legislatures to adjust the percentage if deemed necessary. I believe the amendment's acceptable to the author, and I appreciate his work with me on this.
Senator Flores, on the amendment.
Very well, I appreciate that. I appreciate your amendment. It is acceptable to the author.
Any objection? Hearing none. The amendment is adopted. You recognize on passage to engrossment, Senator.
So moved.
Any objection? Hearing none. Bill passed to engrossment. You're recognized to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved, Mr. President.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell.
31 ayes, no nays. Rule suspended. Chair lays out third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 384. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 384, relating to making a donation to the Operation Game Thief Fund when applying for a hunting or fishing license.
You recognize on final.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move final passage of Senate Bill 384.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt.
31 ayes, no nays. Bill's finally passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
And thank
President.
you for your
Thank you,
long
members.
time service
Thank you, sir.
in fishing and game. Thank you. Members, the President's desk is clear. Any announcements? Senator Huffman?
Yes, members, the Senate Committee on Finance will reconvene at 2:15 in the Finance Room. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Senator Birdwell?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I'd like to remind members that the Committee on Natural Resources will reconvene our hearing in room E1012, 30 minutes upon adjournment, which would be at 2:20, Mr. President. Thank you, members.
Chair recognizes Dean of the Senate for a highly privileged motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and members, I move that the Senate adjourn until 10 a.m. Thursday, March 13th.
Any objection? Chair hears none. The Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. Thursday, March 13th. Thank you, members.